Welcome, everybody. We are here today, again, talking about website accessibility, but this time we're really going to try to boil it down to the essentials for what you, as a library website manager and a person responsible in any way, shape, or form for your library website, what you need to know as far as what you will be having to manage on your website directly if you are a part of our Lean Wisconsin website group. So I've taken this and I put it into 5 key items that you will need to do or do now to make your website accessible and to keep doing over time. There are some things that we need to do immediately right off the bat, and they will be a one and done sort of fix. This is going to concentrate on the things that will be ongoing and part of your new workflow as you continue to maintain a website that meets ADA compliance into the future. So a little bit of background on this is if you are part of our Lean Wisconsin website library management group, you can rest assured that the Lean Wisconsin website team is working on the back end to structurally set up your websites for screen reader compatibility and to meet website compliance. Most of this does involve things that will work for screen readers. That's the biggest fixes. There are other fixes such as contrast and keyboard navigation that isn't necessarily screen reader specific, or in the case of contrast, it's not for screen readers at all. But the majority of the work that needs to be done is are things that make screen readers work with a website. So we, over the next year, are going to be rolling out a series of code and structural fixes. But once those are in place and you're handed this shiny new accessible website, there are still things that as you add content and you make changes to your website that you as website managers need to be aware of and need to do. And I've boiled that down to about 5 areas, 3 of which are task-based and 2 of which are more about how you think about approaching your website management. So let's launch into our first task-based item that you need to do when adding information to your website. And that is, if you haven't heard it before, you're hearing it now and you're going to hear it again. You need to add alternative text to images. Alternative text, if you haven't been part of our training up to now and you're not familiar, there are in each one of these slides, there is a link to a training documentation piece. So in this case, if you click on the alt text link in this presentation, which will be available online and emailed to you, you'll be taken to our training on alternative text, which covers what it is and how you step by step would actually add it to your website on um, in in the work that you do, whether it be adding posts or adding page information. Why alternative text is important comes down to even with the advances in AI and things that are happening, computers can't reliably yet see and interpret images for themselves. In most cases, a screen reader would see file, an image, and it would skip right over it and not even tell anybody that it was there. So if it was in any way important for navigation or for understanding the content of a page, that a person using a screen reader would simply be out of luck. And in in this case, we need to be able to give that computer the ability to describe the content to a visual or into it in a visual way that is presented in a visual way to a person who is relying on an audible interpretation. The major thing that I also want to make sure you are aware of is that there is a tool for this. Um, One of the challenges with alternative text is that it can feel like a barrier to start writing it. And if we can give you a tool to help get past that initial, I don't know how to make this alternative text work, this is by far the best tool we found. It is from Arizona State University, and they have created, in this case, it is artificial intelligence. It is a tool that when you upload a file, and I'm going to keep it to the simple one right now. I have a featured image that I want to make sure I have alternative text for. You're like, basically, you might be tempted to say this is decorative. It's not important. It doesn't add any functionality to my post, but you're putting it there for a reason for our visual users. Let's not forget about the experience of the people who can't see. We can still add a little bit of text to our website that would allow our screen reader users to understand what the image is that's attached to our post. So I clicked on Create Image Details here, and it runs both a long description breakdown and an alternative text for us. So in this one, it's fairly simple. It's not a complicated alternative text. It says open books fanned out with book club text above. It's a little nicer than just saying books with the words book club. It also gives a longer description. Image features a row of 7 hardcover books standing open with their pages splayed outward. The covers are hardly visible as they are mostly obscured by the fan pages. Books are arranged in an arc on a light blue background. Above the books, bold black text reads Book Club, prominently displayed against a pale backdrop. It gives a visual experience to somebody who can't, with their eyes, take that in. But for the purposes of alternative text, all you need to do is grab the shorter one. What's also really handy about this tool is it can transcribe text very reliably. If you have a large amount of text in an image, you can use it to transcribe that text and go from there. The transcribing is something I do want to come back to here, because in the do's and don'ts, do use a simple featured image with alternative text to describe it. So again, we would take what the open books fanned out with a book club text above and add that to our website, to our WordPress post with when we upload this image. If you need instructions, again, that's back in the training document. What we do not want to do is upload images such as this. And I've seen many times what happens is you've created a poster in Canva. It has dates, times, presenter information, all sorts of words on it. And this gets uploaded to your website with no typed text or printed text whatsoever next to it. And at that point, you've clicked on a screen reader user will click on your post and go to a page that just has this, and they hear the title and that's it. The title might be the only documented text on the page. And if that's the case, so if I come into a website, I'm going to pick on one. This is actually just fine. This one has been done correctly. But if you have not included this text in your post text box, and all you've done is uploaded this image without an alternative text in the description, your person is going to hear Historic Wisconsin Roadsides, a free travel program, and that's it. They won't know the date, they won't know the time, they won't know the location, they won't have any other way to get any other information off of this. And your website is officially not accessible because somebody who can receive information in one format needs to be able to receive it in another. So if it's available visually to a one user, by law, it needs to be delivered in another format for a non-visual user, in which case would be the alternative text. So you would need to make sure that you had this information in the alternative text. And here there is an alternative text in this description, plus there is a, oops, mess up her. Plus there is the full information that can be read aloud by the screen reader. So do not use complex images without text, and please avoid small print. It would be far better, even in this example that I'm pulled up from a website, which it transcribes it. It would be better to have a single image here, maybe the cover of the book, but not have all of these additional words in the image and only have these words and that information in the text. The better practice, again, is to use a simple image and text beside it. So that's number one on our journey is you need to manage your images on your website with alternative text. Out of number two out of 5 items is using heading structure for posts and pages. As Brendan's been going through websites, and this is not on you particularly, but in general, when websites were designed, there wasn't a lot of attention paid to headings and heading structure. What is website heading structure? Well, we do have a training page on this. And if you want to learn more exactly about what heading structure is, in short, if you remember back to school when if you were taught how to create outlines of information where the most important information was at the top and then key points followed beneath it, and each key point had other subpoints. This is heading structure in a nutshell. And it helps us understand how information is organized and what information on a page is related to each other. Sometimes it's very easy to have this as a visual presentation, and it may be very obvious to a person who is coming to your website that this information is related. But when you listen to that information, it may come out garbled and confused. So heading structure is important for making sure that information is collected and presented in a way. I want to give a quick demonstration of this, but also to point out that most of the time you are presenting information in a post. So here's an example of a post on your website. This title up here is automatically given the designation of heading 1. So if you do nothing else on your post page but fill in a title, your page has a title, it has a heading 1. Most of the time, the information that goes into the post box below is simple and basic enough that you don't need to complicate it by adding additional headings. However, if you did have a longer post and you did have information that needed organizing, the way you would do it would be to select the information that you want to have as your next heading. So this is a written page writers group. And the very first statement here is, are you a writer? I'm going to make that, because I already have one heading 1 on my page and there's only one, I'm going to come down and make this a heading 2. Now I look at how the information in this section is organized, and I actually see like it gives you an invitation to join the group, and then it gives the location. I'm actually going to take this information that is all about what the writers group is, and then I'm going to group that under Are You a Writer as a heading. And I'm going to create another heading here that is meeting information. And I take that and I create that a heading 2 for that. And now I have 2 distinct navigation tools for my post. One is, are you a writer? And I have all the information about what this group meeting is about. And then I have my generic meeting information about the when and where, and if they have to register information down here. Notice that I am formatting this text using this drop down only because I want this to be a navigation tool. What I do not want to do is say that I want the where, let's say I want this to just visibly, maybe I want to bold it, but instead I'm going to come down here and I'm going to assign a random heading to. This is a no-no. This is what we do not do, is select random text and make it bigger using one of the heading drop downs. Because what that does is it confuses the screen reader, it confuses the reading order, and the navigation will no longer make sense. The screen reader relies on these structures in order to navigate your web page. So back to the things that you need to do to manage your content is to use appropriate heading structure for your posts and pages. Again, we use the pre-formatted tools that are available to you to create clumps of information, to organize your information in a navigable and understandable way, but do not use it just to add visual emphasis. If you want to go above and beyond and you want to really understand how this works for screen readers, on our website training page, there is a kind of a 101, very basic how to get started with using a screen reader. This one focuses on the NVDA screen reader, which is the non-visual desktop access screen reader. The reason that this focuses on that is this is the most popular screen reader. It is made by a nonprofit that offers this available for free to anybody who wants to download it. And there's a couple videos here about how NVDA works and how you can get started with it. This is not a requirement, and learning a screen reader can be complicated. But if you want to really understand how navigation tools work for non-visual navigation, that's the absolute best way. There is also a native screen reader on Windows. It's called Narrator. It's perfectly functional. It's just not the most popular tool out there. It's lacking some of the features that NVDA can offer. Our third point out of 5 points, and this is the actionable point, is creating and posting accessible documents. So what is this talking about? This is talking about mainly for many people is that we need to stop using PDFs on our website. PDFs have become a sort of way of life. It feels like all you're doing is taking a document and printing an electronic copy of a Word document or an Excel file. Unfortunately, PDF by the technology itself is not immediately, directly, natively, however you want to say it, accessible. It requires a lot of fixing for them to be readable by a screen reader. And even in the case where if you start with a fully accessible and fully carefully designed document, there's still things that go awry in the process of transforming, say, a Word document into a PDF. That means that it's no longer compatible with screen readers. And it's also not mobile friendly. They're not mobile responsive. They don't resize. And I don't know if you've noticed this, if you've ever been on your phone and you're trying to bring up something that happens to be a PDF, it can be very hard to make that, to be able to read it on your phone. So we want to make sure that we are creating and posting accessible documents. And so the tools here, it's probably going to be if alt text seems confusing or like an extra piece of work, and if headings are confusing, or maybe something you don't have to touch very often, documents are probably going to be the biggest learning curve. And we are going to do our best to help you understand and work with them. Right now, the best practice is to use Word or other Microsoft because they have become they are the gold standard at the moment. This could change, but they are the ones that have done the most with accessibility tools, and they have accessibility checkers built in. If you want to learn more about why Microsoft versus Google Docs, this is all contained. We have several trainings here for you to read about. One is the accessible documents that gives a big overview of what accessibility in documents is. The next one talks about how you can use Google Documents with an add-on. So if you are a Google Docs user, then what you have to do an add-on for Docs, Slides, and Sheets. And when you add that on, you have many of the accessibility checker tools that Microsoft has already natively integrated into their programs. This training goes very specifically into using styles to create headings in Google or in documents, and there's a training video attached to that. So how you can use styles, again, it's the exact same thing as we were just talking about with web pages, is to add heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, and to format your document in that way that a screen reader can navigate down it. It also is super handy for when you're creating complex documents and you want to add a table of contents or other navigation that's just good for keyboard navigation or for navigating large documents with clicking jump links. Finally, one of the more difficult things is trying to figure out how to get that document from Word, from where it is on your computer, onto your website. In the past, what we have used is the media library, where you upload your document into the WordPress media library, and then you take that link and you add it to your web page. What we are not going to do that anymore. We are going to, well, it's not that you can't, it's that we would encourage you to request your own SharePoint folder. Again, this is when you're a part of a Lean Wisconsin library and you have a login for your email and other users. Your library can have multiple people, depending on how many people you have working there and working on your website, have access to a shared folder where you would upload a document. You actually can upload anything. You can upload images, and then you would create a link to that and share it on your website as a view-only document. So if you are logged in, you will be able to edit documents. You'll be able to create and edit documents within this folder. If you are not a logged in user, you would see a view-only version of that document when you click a link from your website. This full training will be it's here as a document and it'll be available as a video very shortly. You can come back and learn how to use SharePoint for uploading documents as Word, Excel, PowerPoint. So for accessible documents, the do's are review what documents you currently have on your website. Do you have board documents, agendas, minutes, and other meeting materials? Do you have policies uploaded? Do you have newsletters? Do you have an archive of historic PDF type documents? This is going to be trickier to deal with. And that's going to be, we're focusing right now on board documents and policies, which are the most straightforward to format. Newsletters and infographics or annual reports are annual report presentations are probably going to be the next thing that we will need to focus on how do we deal with more complex graphic types and not top bottom sort of reading documents and things that have colors. That will be our next big piece. And then if you have PDF archives or other documents that are accessible through your website, we'll need to talk about that because scanned documents are kind of really going to be our nemesis going forward. And that's going to be a very tricky thing to handle. So your first job is to figure out what is on your website, inventory it, and make that list so that we're ready to deal with it. Starting now, create documents and using Microsoft products and use the built-in accessibility checker to make sure that your documents are accessible. And then if you're creating documents in Google, make sure you use the Grackle add-on and check accessibility there. Do not, please, create documents in Canva. Save Canva for creating graphics. Um, it's just Canva is not built, even though they say they have accessibility built in, they're not built for this type of accessibility. Um, the other option here is the do's is consider changing your documents from an uploaded document to something that is typed directly into your website and can be printed off. But in the case of like if these are things that you have been regularly uploading to your website and you want to do it, just don't do it in Canva. Make sure don't create documents and then not check them for accessibility, and don't create documents and then export to PDF. We really, really want there will be case reasons for having a PDF on your website, and there will be case reasons for having an image with words on it on your website. And we can fix that. We can deal with that and make it a screen reader accessible tool, but it's going to take extra steps. So as a rule, starting now, do not export to a PDF or scan documents as a PDF, especially scanning, and then upload it to your website. Those are the three specific actionable items that is going to take to maintain accessible content on your website. Points 4 and 5 are more about how you think about your work with your website. The first one is knowing your website. In point 3, I talked about inventorying your documents and knowing what is being put on your website as a document. Number 4 is about that. Know what's on your website, know what needs to be done, know where your concerns are. The tools for your documentation here are going to be tools for your understanding of what needs to be done here are the entire list of accessibility trainings that have been posted already to the Lean Wisconsin website training site. There are a large variety of them. Again, that training documentation for using an NVDA screen reader, this is not something we expect you to do, but if you really want to understand where accessibility rubber hits the road, that's going to be a best tool for you. If you're really excited about this, we have a great group of people who are in the website accessibility learning group. We're using those websites kind of as a trial site, so their sites get some of the remediations first and get checked the most often to see if they are maintaining accessibility. And as resources, we are always here to help. So review your website. List your concerns. Do you have documents that you're worried about? Are you unsure about your heading structure and navigation? Are you worried that that alt text is going to be a barrier for you? Understand who is the person in charge of adding alt text and uploading documents to your website. And then participate in trainings. If you're not able to make all of them, if you're not, make sure you review documentation and videos when it comes out in an email. Send your questions in. We can schedule one-on-one times with you if needed. So again, review your website content. The other thing that you can do is delete old posts, delete old images, delete old pages. If you're not using something, the best way to make sure that it's not bogging down your accessibility scores is to delete the stuff that you don't use. As far as what not to do, this is more of a things to avoid issue is don't leave those old items on your website if you can. If you can take the time to really do a website cleanup, this is just going to make life easier. And don't upload large numbers of documents to your website because then we are going to have to go back and review what those documents are together and try to get those fixed up. Remember, you guys are, in the end, the ones who are responsible for your site. We can give you a lot of fixes and get you on your way. But when it comes down to who is the person on the hook for making sure that your building and your website are ADA accessible, it does come back to the library. Finally, and this is more of a stay tuned, this is coming your way. We will be installing an accessibility checker tool that will appear on each page of your website, as well as give a report for your site as a whole. Documentation on this will be coming soon as we roll this out. Right now, it is being tested on the sites that are members of the learning group and a few other sites that have priority due to the size of population in their compliance dates. So as we get this rolled out and we'll start rolling it out more generally, there will be more documentation on this. It's called the Equalize Digital Accessibility Checker plugin. This is a free plugin. It's a free tool that is out there. We will be adding some other features to it that allow us to do some reporting and tracking on the back end, but we're essentially using this. If you want to go investigate it for yourself, again, it's called the Equalize Digital Accessibility Checker. And then what we are adding, another thing that we're adding is an ask for review feature. This will send a help ticket into the website help@librarieswin.org. So if you've done something to your website and you're not quite sure you did it right, or if you are getting a score that you are not happy with on a page, all you have to do is then once that's added to your site, you can ask for review. Again, don't hesitate to ask for help. We are more than happy to schedule one-on-ones to look at your site individually. This will be rolling out mainly over the next 6 months to a year, probably before it's fully implemented on all the sites. So this is for you to start doing your inventory, start doing your getting to know what's on your website, and to start practicing. And right now, you should be adding alt text to images. You should be making sure that you're not using heading structure for posts, and you should be working on creating accessible documents and not uploading documents as images to your website or posters as images. If you're doing those three things, number 4 is going to come because you will be knowing what is on your website and you'll be getting a better idea of it. And then number 5, when we circle back to you, it'll be a lot easier for all of us to work together to make sure your website is passing the accessibility check. So those are the 5 key things that you will need to do for maintaining your website into the future. And remember, we are always here for you. I hope you guys have a great day. We'll get this recording up and posted, and we'll have links inside this will be links to all of these training tools and features, and more of this will be coming over the next months. Very much.